was raised up to stand up for what I thought was right. A tooth for a tooth and a knife for a knife. And do unto others as you'd be done to. And if you do me wrong, mister, got it coming to you. So you can say what you want to about the things I hold true, and the fabric that makes up this red, white, and blue. 'Cause I'll fight for my country till the day that I'm done. And I still got my God, and I still got my gun. Well, if you want me, come and get me. I ain't hard to find. A 45 on my hip and the Lord on my side. So you can say what you want to about the things I hold true, and the fabric that makes up this red, white, and blue. And I'll fight for my country till the day that I'm done. And I still got my God, and I still got my gun. And I'll fight for my country till the day that I'm done. And I'll still have my God, and I'll still have my gun.
What is going on, my friends? How in the hell are you? I probably just scared the shit out of KL sitting over there on mute, by the way. Let me get that. All right, how are we doing out there? Let me see who we got in here. 47 people. All right, April, we need truth. Mr. Paladin White Hat. Miss Dawn, Truth Seeker. KL, Charles, Debbie W, Rustic Signatures. Let's see here. Angela G. I think I got Matt Gilmore. I think I got everyone. Welcome, and man, did I miss the hell out of you guys. But I had some fun while I was gone. I learned a whole lot. So before I tell you about what I've learned, I want to go ahead and bring KO in. So the loudest mouth in the north, guys. Mrs. KO, how are you? Not very loud, apparently.
You are rude.
What are you doing? How are you? Tell everybody, tell all these wonderful people that came here to see you, or I'm sorry, listening to you, how you're doing.
I'm doing fine. I'm sitting here contemplating why I'm even friends with you. I haven't figured it out.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta put your hair back and have some fun, you know. It's just what you gotta do.
Anyway,
Anyway, but all right, let me get into what I learned while I was gone. 'Cause
enlighten us. Enlighten us with
I'm-
what you've learned.
I'm going to enlighten you right now. I learned number one. I learned that Wego is the bandit. I did learn that.
Okay.
Number two, I learned that Eddie Smith really doesn't like Mike Turber. That was a little classic show that they put on there.
I saw a little of that.
Number three, I learned a little bit about hypocrisy. And as I was watching, a couple of chats, and I happened to go into a certain chat, and I'm thinking, well, my face is on somebody with a diaper on, so of course they're talking about me, correct? No, not talking about me. So boring, really, but I get in there, and they're talking about sock accounts. Like, every other word has sock in it. Sock, this is a sock, that's a sock, that's a sock, that's a sock, that's a sock. Making fun of people with sock accounts or blah, blah, whatever. So, they're doing this while they're sitting in a sprinkles chat that is a fucking sock. So, I learned a little bit about that.
I'm stuck on the diaper part.
Oh, you didn't see it?
No, I didn't see it, but I'd like to.
I mean, it was up there. It was actually pretty funny. I think whoever that is thinks that bothers me. It doesn't. I just laugh.
Well, it is satire.
Or yeah, just well, I mean that's what they're gonna say anyway. So
Right.
all right, and the fourth thing I learned, and this one's the most important here, is that Mike Turber is really stupider than I thought he was. The man went to another man's house and made a fucking fool out of himself. I don't really know what to say to that, but I mean, where does it stop with this guy? That's what I asked you guys. Where does it stop with this fucking moron? You got an answer for that?
No.
You don't know where it's going to stop either?
Mm-mm.
I mean, is he crazy? Is he stupid? Or just suicidal?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I do want to talk a little bit about the Joe Roscoe situation because I think it needs to be talked about. I think the timeline, which we should all know the timeline of what happened here. But I think we need to go over it just so everyone understands. And if you want to do the timeline, or you want me to?
You go ahead. I'll fill in the gaps.
All right, well, I'll remember it as I know it, and she'll, again, fill in the gaps. Joe Roscoe was doing a live one night. Turber comes in there and starts causing a whole bunch of shit. And Joe Roscoe said, joking, as if all friends have done it, said, "Your mama." Now, at this moment in time, Joe has no idea about anything going on with his mama. It was just a "your mama" joke. Well, he proceeds at this same moment to say that his mom is on hospice. While he is still beating the shit out of the chat and Joe live. He talks about his mom being on hospice. Now, it's a little ironic, the timing there, right? I mean, come on. He says a "your mom" joke, and now all of a sudden your mom's on hospice. That was quick. That was very quick. So, he keeps on at Joe, keeps on at Joe, keeps on at Joe, gets Joe to the point where he's extremely pissed off, and Joe says some things about his mother. Now, these things about his mother, I probably wouldn't say. You'd have to get me really, 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 really fucking pissed to say those things. But Joe said them. Alright, continuing on. I miss anything in that first part?
I think that, yes, you missed prior to that particular live, there were a few others where there were demands made on his personal information, and I honestly can't remember the timeline on when all the other ones came in there and started a ruckus about the anniversary and who's going and who can go and who is not allowed to go and all that. I can't remember that exact timeline, but I do know that there were several interruptions prior to this one in a live demanding personal information, if I remember, like his MOS number or something from the military.
Yes, there was. There was a bunch of threats going on, and the thing that was said before that whatever, blah, blah, blah. I think, I guess it's really not blah, 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 because, it's important, the timeline here. So, well, moving on from that situation, Joe's doing another live stream, sitting in his own garage, where all of a sudden, most of us were there, start hearing a car going up and down the road blowing a horn. Now, I guess we didn't think about it until the third time, and they laid on the horn. It was like, what the hell's going on? And then you hear this fucking idiot in the background yelling and screaming. And it's no mistake that it was him. I promise you. No mistake. And he says, blah, 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 you're a piece of shit, Joe, and peels out of there and leaves. Alright, so Joe chills out, comes back, he starts to talk about what he was talking about again, and then what do we get? Here comes this idiot. Again. And Joe, at this point in time, which he should have been, very pissed off, went out and confronted him. Now, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I don't know how close they got to each other. I don't know. No, it happened when you were live, KL, so just so you know. So the man came to his house for something he said. Now, on the internet, people say a lot of shit on the internet. I get called all kinds of shit every day. Am I supposed to go show up at somebody's house? I don't think anything that anybody says warrants me going to anyone's house. Now, and continuing on here, we get these long-ass posts from this fucking retard Secret Safe with You. Now, hypocrisy again comes into play here, because wasn't it just a few short months ago that someone took a picture near, quote-unquote, his old stomping grounds, and he whined like a baby bag bitch for a week, blamed all kind of people? Is that not what happened? Was I seeing things? No, that's exactly what happened. Now imagine had they had actually showed up to his house, like his literal house, with his children and wife in it, or whatever he has. A baby bag bitch. That's what I said, Paladin. He would have freaked the fuck out. Who knows what the guy would have done? This picture was taken somewhere supposedly near his old stomping grounds, and he whined and whined and whined and whined, and He sure wasn't putting out fucking blog posts. And so I read these blog posts, and it's like, dude, really? And then I go down and read the comments, and him and Scott Lewowski, I think his name is, the only person that's commenting with him. I mean, him and Scott Lewowski need to take the butt plugs out and use them motherfuckers as pacifiers, because they are some whiny ass bitches. I'm trying to tell you. But moving on back to Joe and Mike. Look, I stand with Joe. Joe has every right to be very fucking pissed off. Very pissed off. I don't give a shit how old that person was in his house. I don't care if she was 13 or she was 33. It obviously scared the poor girl. Or else why the hell would she come outside? I mean, she come out trying to figure out what the hell Joe was doing. I mean, Joe is 100% right in this. I don't give a shit what anyone says, or, you know, the mama cracks or whatever he was going on. Okay, I'll give you that one. But to physically show up at somebody's house, yeah, that's pushing it just a little too far. Anything to add to that? Because I'm sure I missed something there. You know me, I just went off rambling. What, you on a delay or something?
No, I was busy. I honestly, shit. Hold on.
Damn, now somebody's at her house. There you go, Shady. Spin off of Applebee's new rib song. Yeah. Who else we got in here? Dub, New England Patriots girl. Shady J, David Gilbert. I do want to get into one thing, and I'd like to do it after she gets back and tells whatever she wants to tell, but I mean, was it scary? Somebody delete Paladin. Get him out of here. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't think a wrench can delete another wrench. Sorry.
I know that. I'm just messing with him.
I think I cut most of what you said, or the gist of what you said. I honestly don't expect civilized behavior from anyone that you're referring to at all. But I do feel that, Joe's been put under a microscope about, a few not so cool things that were said, but it's hard to walk in somebody else's shoes. And there were a lot of negative things occurring prior to that. And Joe's not really one to talk about things publicly, it seems. He doesn't go out and talk about a lot of things, but I am to understand there were a few things that were occurring to him personally. I believe he said his YouTube account had been hacked. There were comments that were left under his account on, other videos or something like that. There were videos made about him prior to that, that exchange that was in that live. And, it seemed like he was under kind of a constant, a constant microscope by these uncivilized human beings. And on top of that, there was some there was a push for someone to, to give out his personal information. He knew about that. He was accused of being a liar about his military career, which takes some serious balls coming from the person it came from. And I'll just leave that there. But serious balls.
I won't, Mr. National Guard.
And there were, Joe takes his military career very seriously. And, you just can't put yourself in somebody else's shoes when you're in that position. And I know this firsthand. I know what that feels like, but it's processed by everyone differently. And fact of the matter is, it was very convenient, I feel, that joke was made, and then it turned into this big dramatic loss. And I'm not, I'm just saying it. I mean, that's very convenient, or the timing was very odd, to say the least, but it wasn't something that he was privy to prior to his joke that he made. And the fact that you're in, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when it happened, the fact that you're in somebody else's life that would never, that doesn't want anything to do with you, doesn't give a shit about what you have to say, doesn't have any respect for, your quote work that you've done out here. And you're unwanted. You're in an unwanted live, running your mouth. And at the same time, you expect everyone to just crumble because you're talking about, a tragedy that's occurring in your life that just so conveniently happens to be about the joke that was just made. I mean, the whole situation was just screwed up from the get-go, but then he kept pushing. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, this guy goes around, dropping people's information, dropping their names. I mean, just a constant circus show under other sock accounts. And you can sit here and say you don't have any other sock accounts. I don't want to freaking hear it. I don't care what you have to say. Nothing you say ever is the truth. But Joe is somebody who, had just had enough, and he deals with it differently. But for that idiot to go over to his house, I mean, if that doesn't, put on display the exact piece of shit person he really is, then I don't know what to tell you. But then on top of that, there were some comments made in the live that night as it was occurring, that it seemed like it was, staged or made up, or, that it was an acting, a role that Joe was playing. And and then to take that one step further, that same person decided to go out, and make a tweet and say that, the people that were in the live were exposing themselves in the circus. I mean, I will just say, that live, it told me a lot about some of the people in this quote community. And it was pretty sad, honestly. It was pretty sad.
No, I agree with that. Absolutely. Oh, who gives a shit if he just went live? Let him go.
And no, this whole live is not going to be about that idiot and his antics and everything. But, we do feel like, regardless of what your opinion is of what happened, what your opinion is of other people's opinions, whatever. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Joe has a right to his opinion. Joe has a right to exercise his freedom of free speech. He has the right to do that. And, to me, the reaction of him exercising his freedom tells you a lot about what those people are trying to push you towards in the first place. To me, when you speak the truth, it is easier to discern a lie. And the more we speak the truth, the easier the lies are to discern. And that is what I'm seeing. And that is why this type of commentary is necessary for people to truly understand and really take a moment to think about the actions of others and how, those actions blatantly explain what they're really all about. And I'm sorry about Darth Vader. I don't know what to say about that. Hopefully you can still hear me.
You moved and got closer to the microphone, and all of a sudden it stopped.
No, I didn't. I haven't moved at all. I'm sitting on my couch in the same spot. I didn't move.
It was long that time.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, Joe has shared his opinion. He shared what he thinks. He is one person who was not, for excluding people from his channel or his lives or his chats, just to give the opportunity for people to share their thoughts, and that maybe, on occasion, some of these people that are so transparent might have something worthy to say. He's obviously over that. But, he deserves respect and support in this particular situation, especially because. Well, I can, and that's very distracting. Sorry. But any one of you would be, or me, or TB, in that same position where someone showed up at your house. I mean, just think about that. Think about that. And then you have people in the chat who have, who have made it appear anyway that, that they're supportive of others that they, communicate with in this community, acting as if he's making it all up or making it, out to be that it's a lie or it's some sort of dramatic, event that they're putting on some sort of show for us at the time. I mean, damn, just go away. Just go away if that's the way you're going to treat people. Honestly.
I agree, and I want to say this. I hear them making jokes and having fun about their whole. They are the quote unquote boots on the ground. Okay, sure, we'll go with that. But that man that they're fucking just trying to drive crazy is the person who got up and put his boots on and went out in enemy territory to fucking defend you fucking asshole, because I know you listening. He defended you over there on enemy territories. You ain't fucking wore any boots like he has. I think the man deserves respect, and I think you should leave him the fuck alone. Period. I stand with you, Joe. You're my buddy.
Ditto. And he has the right to exercise his freedom. So
he fucking earned it.
Well, he was born with it. And the fact is, he is one person that I know for sure, defended it for himself and everyone else. I know for sure Joe did.
Yes.
All you other yahoos out there that are trying to claim you did, yeah, not so sure about that. But I know he did. And I also know he's not out here pulling these shenanigans on people like you are.
All right. Anything else to add to that topic? As it pisses me off.
No, I think that we've covered it.
All right, you want to move on to your videos?
Oh, sure. Are you going to play them or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're going to play a couple videos, maybe 5 minutes. I think one of them's, 5 minutes? The other one's 3 minutes.
I don't know. They're not very long.
Let me get this set up here, and we'll get right after it. As y'all hear, I'm like clicking in the background. Alright, for those of you that haven't seen this, make sure I'm still, there we go. Here we go. I'm turning the sound off because it ain't, never All right, we got. Do you want to kind of go over that one and then we'll play the other one? Or you want to play the other one and then we'll go over both of them?
Just go ahead and play the other one. It's the same information, really.
The investigation of the Las Vegas shooting. He was actually on the scene.
Okay, so what does your source say about that? What can you tell us? What can you tell us at least? I don't want to become Alex Jones here, you know what I mean? But what can you say?
No, I only deal in facts.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI thinks that he used bump stocks, but they can't be 100% certain. The only reason why they think that he used bump stocks is by analyzing the recording of the shooting.
Okay, so hold on. Let me just stop you there before we get deep into this. How can they not be certain when they have the rooms that he occupied as evidence?
Oh,
And everything therein, right? So I'm assuming this thing happened, and they cornered off everything. They stopped this guy, or this guy stopped himself, and then everything that was in his rooms would be evidence, right?
It is. FBI works on facts only.
Mm-hmm.
So just because a bump stock is installed doesn't mean it was actually used.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So they did find something with a bump stock on it in the room.
Yeah, and by analyzing the recording, it does sound that he probably did use a bump stock.
Okay.
Can't be 100% certain.
Right, but there was many things up there anyway.
There's lots of things that he didn't use, lots of casings around. I'm actually seeing pictures of inside the room.
Yeah. So for any of us that have used it, have you ever used a bump stock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan.
No, I'm not a fan either. They're very, very difficult. It's a completely different mode of operation from normal operation of a machine gun, by the way, or normal use of a AR-15 semi-automatic, right? Because you can't.
All right, I know for the people who hadn't watched that before, or especially the first one, that went by way too fast for them in this. So I'll give you the floor and let you talk a little bit about that video.
Yeah, it does go by fast. I mean, there's a lot of information there, and it doesn't seem to matter how far you slow it down. Then you got to pause it and read it, which is, I premiered that, said that you have to pause it and read it. Basically, the ATF came out and admitted that they had no authority to pursue an NPR and call for a bump stock ban. I mean, they had no authority to do so. And if you remember, because I've talked about this quite a few times in the past, the bump stock ban NPR was originated in November of 2017 by the ATF. And they were not allowed to even view the guns or examine the guns until April of 2018. So they had no physical proof or evidence other than there were agents on site, that viewed, that saw the guns. They were not able to examine them. They weren't able to examine them even when they were on site, and they did not receive access to the guns until April of 2018. But they had went ahead and pursued this NPR regardless for the bump stocks. So this, so this is basically a lawsuit that's been ongoing. There were a couple of different lawsuits, but this one in particular, this guy I think is in Utah, and he received originally it was denied, but he received a temporary injunction for, he's able to keep his bump stock. He's the only person in the country, as a matter of fact, who's legally allowed to own a bump stock right now. And the outcome currently of this lawsuit is that the ATF has now admitted they had no legal authority to pursue an NPR for a bump stock ban, and that they are merely acting now as if it was a suggestion to turn in your bump stocks, that it wasn't an actual ruling. And there's been no bipartisan legislation put in place by Congress for banning bump stocks. So in all reality, the bump stock ban, so to speak, will more than likely be overturned, because it's the law, really. I mean, that's how it will most likely turn out.
Not to mention that it's unconstitutional.
Correct. Yes, it is. So that's what that was about. Now this ruling, I think, came out on September 16th, or this information was put out on September 16th. These articles were printed on September 18th. I think the FOIA request documents were then uploaded by Nolo Contendere. I'm not saying that correctly, but that he uploaded those on to Scribed on September 24th. And there are 567 documents have a lot of repetitive information. They're not 567 documents. There's probably, there are updates on the SITREP report, which is a situation report, which is interesting terminology. I suppose, they use it for ATF and that, but that is really a military term, from what I understand. But there is a lot of repetitive information for the situation report that was given on multiple dates, from I think October 2nd to October 8th of 2017, and that was a lot of repetitive information. Then there was a lot of repetitive information, or duplicate, I guess I should say, duplicate information given on on notes for a news conference or a press conference that they were going to do. And there is some interesting information in there. Just these little things that I feel are very odd also, in those documents, like, in one part of the document, they note that there were 47 guns in total recovered from all three locations of Paddock's, the hotel room and the homes. And then in the press conference, or in other documentation, it says 48. The SITREP report notes updated up to the 3rd or the 5th, I think. I don't have them in front of me, but they also continually say that 59 were killed. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at these documents, but they note that that they actually they secured surveillance footage. That it was secured, that that they saw Paddock going to and from a gun range, that a home in that area had surveillance footage of him driving, and he appeared to be alone. They did note also on there the date that his picture was taken for his driver's license. I thought that was interesting. I think that picture was from 2006. That's not really anything. I just thought it was very interesting. So there's a lot of information, that you can read in there. But a lot of it was already out there on AmmoLand already. But there's some information. Now the interview with the guy from AmmoLand on that Hank Strange channel, he obviously said that he has an inside source at the FBI. I mean, take it with a grain of salt, whatever that means. He I don't know, he's not motivated to say it for any other reason than he was actually given the information, I suppose. But the fact that he said that the only true evidence that they reviewed in the FBI was that they listened to the recording of the gunfire, and that's how they were able to determine that a bump stock was used, is just an absolute joke.
So that's the only thing that they're basing it off of, is because they think that's
Well,
what
we can only go by what, this guy from AmmoLand is saying that his source told him. So it's not as if it's in a document that we've received. And I didn't have time today. I wanted to go back and, just kind of note some things in the after action report, with the LVMPD, and then the FIT report. Obviously, we know that there were notes made in the FIT report that referenced, the actual CAD events, but those were only for the 8 shots, if I remember correctly, not for the rapid, the volleys that we hear.
Right.
I could be wrong about that because I haven't looked at it in so long, but I don't recall actual CAD events logged for the volleys, which would certainly be the case based on their system.
Right.
So, So, according to what this guy's telling us, they are saying that they, just because one was put on a gun doesn't mean that, that they have actual evidence that it was used. That's very interesting, isn't it?
It is. And there was another thing that was very interesting, and I know you said it when we were doing the premiere, but you want to talk a little bit about the timing of this?
Well, I think the timing has everything to do with everything else that we see. The shenanigans we've seen on YouTube, obviously tied to the fact that, that settlement was right around the corner, which I've been talking about for months. I mean, I can't tell you when I started talking about that. Maybe but I mean, I had said that this would be settled right after the anniversary. Did I or did I not say that?
You absolutely said that. And it was literally 2 days after.
I mean, in my opinion, I think that, I think that they accepted their fate in around March 21st to March 29th, if you want to know the truth. That's my opinion. I think around March 21st to March 29th, the fate was somewhat accepted that this is where they were going to wind up. There were some tidbits put out there. There was an announcement from MGM, on their report that they were expecting that, insurance would have to pay out. There were some articles written where, there was a little bit of pushback from the attorney, Robert Egglet, who said, no way are we settling on this amount, which was the 735 to 800 million, which is exactly where they wound up. And that, all of that was around the March timeline, if I remember correctly. So this was, I firmly believe that, the fate was somewhat accepted in March. They tried posting their announcement during the government shutdown on the Safety Act website about, and that's still out there. It's still out there. But, I believe that around that time is when they kind of accepted it, but there was still some drag. And for what reason? Don't know. Seems that there was some serious pushback, and I could talk about what I see as serious pushback from the night of the event, probably, right before the event occurred. Until now, but I think that, we waited till the anniversary. It came, we've got the settlement, and, and I can't help but think, that timing is is really everything. It really is. And I see some timing here that, just seems to be, just another one of those huge coincidences with this event that, seem to fall right in line. And the fact that, that this bump stock sitch right before, 2 weeks before, is all of a sudden the ATF is admitting they actually didn't have legal authority, to put out this NPR that, that they didn't, will pursue some sort of action to reverse the decision. I truly believe that it's all coordinated. I do.
Let me interrupt you for a second because some of these people are new to what's happening here. Guys, if you're getting these Facebook notifications telling you that your password is trying to be reset, ignore the shit. They can't get into your phone. It's just a game that fucking Turber and his cronies like to play. Don't even try to reset your password or anything. They can't do anything. So
yeah, just ignore it.
Just fucking.
It's a little game.
And ignore it.
Game.
He's trying to get. It can be done by email, phone number. I mean, it's Facebook. So just ignore
it's
the
a way to
emails.
distract, which is obviously working in the chat. So guys, please. I want to talk and I want to interact with people in the chat, but I can't interact if we're not even on the same topic.
That's true. Just it's been happening for weeks to a bunch of us, and nothing comes of it. So just let it go, and let's get back to the topic. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I guess maybe we could. I don't know if we can. I don't know if everybody's on the same page as we are right now, with that being such a distraction in the chat.
You just want to recap for a second?
Well, no, I don't. If you want to know the truth, no, I don't. I think that the ATF information, the documents being released, the FOIA documents being released, all of it is just nice and timely. And, if you recall the other FOIA documents that I'm referring to that were out on AmmoLand and that, were released by NOLO, those were also in March. I want to say they were on the 21st, March 21st. And there were some other documents dropped, on the 29th. And the other documents from LVMPD were dropped on March 21st. And there were some other events that occurred in March, at the end of March. There were some very interesting articles out there in March. Allegedly, Hendricks lost his job on March 20th. They dropped their documents March 21st. The other documents were dropped March 29th from the FOIA request. The same day they had a status check with the lawsuit on their mediation. That's also the same day that Turd Breath went out there and renewed his videos as if they were brand new. He came out all brand new. I know there's somebody out there who will know why I'm saying that. And acted like, those were brand new, newly released footage. Timing is everything, everyone. It really is. There's a lot going on with the timeline. There was also a lot going on during this timeline with other things that are politically driven that I feel ties into all of this. And I'm not going to get into that because that's heavy. And boy, that'd be a lot to try and sort out. But I feel like that, there were some political things occurring and still are occurring that directly tie in to this event.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, and I think I asked you this on that live tonight. Do you think that lawsuits are going to come? Because if I'm not mistaken, a while back, Marie D put up a video of a company that had to get rid of, I think the number was 75,000 of them. They had to crush them or whatever they did to them. So I mean, that's a shit ton of money, especially if the ban is lifted. Correct? Wouldn't you think?
Do I think that there will be lawsuits from these companies, these manufacturers for
Yes.
the no.
So you don't think that someone who had to demolish 75,000 of these things isn't going to want their damn money?
No, I don't think that there will be. I personally don't think there will be a lawsuit. And I see a comment here. I haven't really been watching the chat, but I started watching now that you said that. And no, the Wednesday data dump had stopped well before March 29th, Matt Gilmore. There was an additional dump that came out on March 29th with documents, but the Wednesday data dumps were, when did those stop? Quite a long time before March 29th. These were just additional documents that came out. Does anybody remember when they stopped?
I'm not sure on the date. I thought
Yeah, it was
in December,
2018. Yeah, I think it was the end of December too, Paladin. So, but no, I personally do not think that there will be lawsuits.
You want to kind of explain why you think that, or?
No, not currently. I just don't think that there will be.
All right. Cool. I kind of think there will be if the ban's lifted, but it could be where they shut these people up. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, the data dumps had stopped. These were additional documents that were released on March 21st. Matt, check me. March 21st.
all right. Anything you want to bring up? I know we haven't been on to talk about the settlement, but them kissing MGM's ass was kind of funny, but
No, it was
predictable.
fully expected.
Yes.
Fully expected that was what we would hear.
And he laid it on thick.
Well, what are you? I mean, no one can be surprised about that. Give me 2 seconds here.
While we're waiting on her, how the hell has everybody been? Good? I know I've seen some of you in chats, but some of you I haven't.
Okay, sorry about that. But no, I mean that really should have been expected by everyone. First of all, he's right. I mean, as far as no admission of guilt, I mean that is just part of a settlement in those types of in that type of litigation. I mean, if you go to mediation and you settle, that does not, it's not an admission of guilt. So that part is to be expected for both parties to say that, and I'm sure that was part of the deal all along. But yeah, I mean the additional layer of bullshit that they put out there was going to be said the whole time. If you ask me, that's my opinion. There was a lot of conflicting information coming from Robert Eaglet. I will tell you that. And I am fascinated by the part where he states that it's somewhere between 735 to 800 million, dependent upon how many people actually make a claim. And I'm not I'm not an attorney and I'm not, super familiar with, with how this works exactly. I know there's a facilitator that's assigned by the court, and that person will basically take everybody's claim. And based on the details of those claims, then they will decide how much that person receives. Um, and then they will at that time determine, um, based on how many people claim and what the amount is that's decided upon. I guess that, but then, they have to stay within this cap of 800 million. So I'm not really sure. I was under the impression, this isn't a class action lawsuit, because Robert Eaglet went out there and said himself in a couple of different interviews that it would be ridiculous for this to be a class action lawsuit based on the fact that, you can't identify somebody's pain and suffering right along with the next person. Not any one person suffered the same amount of damage or, injury or physical ailment or, whatever, PTSD.
That was going to be my question.
PTSD.
No, my question to you is just how the hell do you put these in categories?
Well, I have no idea. That's up to the facilitator that they assigned. And I have no idea how that's supposed to be determined. But I just found it fascinating that there was a range for that, instead of saying we, secured this $800 million lawsuit settlement, and that, and that is the amount that you have to work with, for this range of each individual payment. You know what I mean? I'm not quite understanding the range of the 735 to 800 million. That makes no sense to me. I do understand the facilitator, or, whatever they're called, that's assigned by the court that meets with each individual claimant, and they then decide, based on these claims, how much each person will receive based on their injuries. And, and I'm guessing that they have a time frame of when that payout, when those claims have to be made, and then, the time frame of when they'll, for their decision period, and then, when you're notified. But so somebody's saying we're buffering, but I do not understand the range of the payout. That should not matter based on how many claimants there are. This is a settlement. Am I still here?
Yeah, you're here. We're okay. Good. We're not. He's buffering. Okay. We're not.
Oh, okay. One of those. So I'm very confused on that. There should be a settlement amount, 800 million, right? 800 million. And this is what we have to work with. So then we decide based on this settlement amount, not a range of a settlement based on how many claimants there are. That makes no sense. Zero.
Well, if the statute of limitation has been reached, they already know how many, correct?
I believe they already agreed to extend that until May of 2020, if I remember correctly. But I think that was in documents. They had already agreed to extend the statute of limitations. But I also am very confused on where all of these victims, or, these defendants, or these claimants are listed, because they're not in the MGM paperwork. And that is the document that, now I know, that other people, based on the fact that they extended the statute of limitations, but, how can you say that there are 4,500 people, potential claimants, if you if you are if you're talking about a concert that, allegedly 22,000 people attended, and you are going to say that, based on 22,000 people, how have you already determined that there should be about 4,500? But where are they?
That's a very good question, and I believe I asked that to you when I heard that number, because that number's like 45, and we don't
4,500. He represents about 2,200, I believe he said. I'm roughly estimating here on what he said, because he's actually said a few different numbers on a few different occasions, so it's hard to keep it straight. But I want to say there was about 246 people listed on MGM's complaint. I could be off there in the number, but I want to say it was about 246. I haven't looked at that for a long time, but I want to say it was about 246 people. If Paladin's still in the chat, he can chime in, because we talked about that extensively months ago. So where are they? Who are these people?
He says that sounded right. So
yeah, I don't. Just none of this makes sense. But that range. What, is there a Darth Vader again?
no, I was laughing at Dalen.
Oh. That range of the payout based on the number of, that's just some straight bullshit, if you ask me. You don't settle on a range based on the amount of claimants. I mean, that, to me, that determines that you've already decided how much each claimant will receive. But if we have a few stragglers, then we need to put some padding in here. Huh? What? Is it what? That's bullshit. Bullshit.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
For padding. No name says it's for padding.
You don't have padding in this type of situation, though. You don't. So, I believe that, the insurance is going to take a hit for money.
I'd almost bet that it never goes over 751 million.
I don't expect it to go over the amount that the insurance actually covers.
Ms. Dawn says, do they have a list? Do they list the claimants anywhere?
Well, they don't have to list it because they settled it. So this is not public. It's not. This won't be public information. I'm sure of that. No doubt. No, they won't. They won't list that. They've settled it.
For that guy to go on and on about MGM and then to come out and say that he's going to, if his family comes into town, that's where he's going to put them. I mean,
no, the bigger thing that's more important here, because I mean, he's a long time, big shot attorney of Vegas, I mean, that part is par for the course with these people. I mean, snakes is what you're dealing with here. But it's the fact that he then tried to turn this into a gun control press conference that is the eye catcher here. It was no longer MGM's responsibility. And by the way, what happened with Live Nation? And where were they in mediation? because, this was against them also. It was also against, do you hear Darth Vader?
No.
Okay. It was also against Paddock's estate. It was against Slide Fire. It was CSC. Where are they in this mediation?
That's a good question.
Well, how can they be? I mean, I don't understand how they could be under the MGM umbrella and they were separate companies.
I didn't hear them mentioned, did you?
No, not in the MGM complaint. No. And if they were, then if they were included in this, then their insurance, they all have separate insurance. Hell, even the yeah, but the Safety Act didn't. It didn't. They didn't have the protection of the Safety Act, so that didn't work. So, okay, people, please stop with the noises in the background. Let's concentrate on the conversation. So where are they in all this? Where is their insurance coverage? Where are they mentioned in all of this, in all of the outcome here?
Miss Dawn, I don't believe that, because I think those would be separate lawsuits if those were being filed. I mean, I don't see it going for the victims or the. Paladin says they're covered under the MGM umbrella, but
yeah, that would only be with the Safety Act. Now, we have heard about the other lawsuits, Miss Dawn, because superstar Robert Egglet went out there and convinced all those other people to drop their lawsuits, and they did. They all canceled them, dismissed them, and it's amazing how, they were all done on the certain dates. I do understand what's going on here. You think that I don't, I do. I'm talking to everyone else. You need to hush. I'm just saying, what businesses and shops filed lawsuits, though, Miss Dawn? Did someone file lawsuits? What businesses and shops?
I didn't see any. I haven't heard you tell me about any either, so.
No, there weren't. There were no businesses. There were no businesses that filed against MGM. No businesses filed anything. I mean, I would assume that that those losses would have not been a lawsuit, but those would have been covered, based on claims, per whatever the event contract was with those vendors, is my guess. Those wouldn't be lawsuits.
I mean, Miss Stone says the beer booth, pizza booth. I mean, they're going to be in the victims more than likely, in my opinion. But at the same time, remember
possibly. But as far as their business is concerned, they're conducting business. Whatever their losses were, not only could they file it under their own insurance, but I would assume that whatever the contracts, they sign contracts when they enter into agreements when these types of events, are put on and vendors come in. So, you sign a contract with the, probably with MGM Village and with Live Nation, whoever was sponsoring actually producing the event or coordinating the event. So those losses would have been covered under those insurance policies. I mean, that's, they have that. I mean, just like if somebody stole, which according to some of those vendors, somebody did steal a bunch of their stuff. And, those wouldn't be lawsuits. Those would be covered under, simple insurance claims.
Well, when it comes to the vendors and things like that in the event, though, I think you have to also realize when this happened. The final night of the shooting, the final night of the concert, the very last act on, what did they lose? How much did they lose?
Well, they lost a lot, honestly. Those vendors couldn't remove their their booths and their equipment and their whatever it is. Their whole setup was held hostage in that venue for weeks and weeks. So, think about how much they would have lost, if they were traveling on. Those people travel normally all over the country and participate in whatever, concerts, carnivals, state fairs, all that shit. Most definitely those people would have lost out on revenue for sure.
Wow.
You take into consideration.
Well, I wasn't taking that into consideration.
The loss of whatever it is that they had there.
I was just thinking about the actual concert itself, not outside of
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, those vendors, lost, I would say, a significant amount of revenue. And then not to mention that, if you read in some of those event logs, and the dispatch and that, there were vendors that, their merchandise was stolen. Literally, I can't remember who it was. There was one in particular who I think they were selling cowboy boots and hats and all that, and all their crap was gone. Which is interesting, right? Because they had that shit on lockdown, but all their stuff was gone. And there's an event log for that. They took a report, and that's in the dispatch logs. So, who's going through there and swiping stuff during a mass shooting?
Well, there was someone in Edwards' chat last night saying that there were looters.
Yeah, obviously. Heck, we did see that one guy. Remember Incredible Hulk in the bar thing and the CCTV footage? Yes. Went crazy, and he's in there throwing shit all over, and yeah. So anyway, those vendors would be covered under, their insurance policies. And
well, the next day the FBI was out there counting beer cans and stuff. Full beer cans. There was video of that. So did that get turned back over to the people who actually own it, or
did what get turned back over?
You can see that there was a guy, I think he was filming out of the Mandalay Bay, and it was daylight, and he was filming the FBI, and they had a table set up, and they were counting beer cans out, full beer cans.
Yeah. That was interesting, wasn't it? Who knows, but certainly they counted all that crap as a loss, sat there for weeks, allegedly, So they didn't have access to any of that. So, but again, all of that would be under the insurance claim. But, but the fact that the fact that it is not actually spelled out in these documents as far as um, the additional businesses that were involved here. And, and if they didn't agree to extend the statute of limitations, they didn't agree to the settlement. And as far as we know, they aren't paying out on their insurance any victim claims, so it's just interesting how this all honed in on MGM and MGM alone. And, the Safety Act isn't relevant because, they settled. They didn't move forward with the Safety Act. It's still quote under review as far as the Department of Justice is concerned. Not the payout. The payout is not. No, it's not. The payout is through their insurance only.
It's pretty adamant there.
I guess. So where is that exactly? It's an insurance coverage. It's insurance from MGM's insurance. Not the $27.3 billion that are sitting there at the Treasury that would cover a claim under the Safety Act.
I'm waiting on something else here. Oh, here we go.
What were you waiting on?
I was waiting on him to say. He says the insurance number was always the same. It just depends on how they get there.
Because the insurance is paying. The insurance, not the collected the premiums that are sitting with the Treasury that covers the claims under the Safety Act. We've talked about this before. We're going around the same merry-go-round. So anyway, I mean, the point is, there's no, the fact that Live Nation, and I'm not sure, I mean, I kind of left that to Jen as far as that other lawsuit is concerned. I don't think that anything's happened with that. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't looked up the Zurich information for quite some time. I got bored with continuing to look because nothing ever happened. There was nothing ever filed, but I haven't looked for a while, so I don't know if somebody else has looked. But there was nothing. Yeah, yes, we are. You brought up the Safety Act and the coverage there. So yeah, I've been talking about MGM. Their liability was always going to be the insurance limit. Yes, that is exactly right. But that doesn't, that's not covered under the MGM umbrella as far as Live Nation is concerned. I mean, those are separate entities. And honestly, if anything should be under target here, it should be CSC, and the fact that those claimed exits were blocked off. If anybody really was under a microscope here, it should have been them. But they got off scot-free. Okay.
So Live Nation's actually owned by Ticketmaster, right? Didn't they merge?
I think so. I haven't looked up Live Nation info for a while. Liberty Media Corporation is who owns them. iHeartMedia, Live Nation Entertainment is owned by Liberty Media. Well, they own 34% of it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they merged with Ticketmaster.
Did they?
Mm-hmm. According, yes, they did. According here to Wikipedia, 2017, their revenue was $10.337 billion.
So I'm seeing shareholders of Liberty Media, Lone Pine Capital, the Vanguard Group, Canadian Pension Plan, Marcisco Capital Management, Fidelity Management, Select Equity, Acra Capital, Capital Research and Management, and Findlay Park. And that is as of September 19th of 2019.
I thought Jay-Z had something to do with that. And he does, apparently. It was Rock Nation.
Well, I thought he just signed a 10-year deal with them for tour promotion.
Maybe that's where I'm getting that from. But these numbers are interesting on them, that their revenue was $10.337 billion, but their net income was, they lost $6 million, and that's in 2017.
Yeah. I think Live Nation merged with Ticketmaster to become Live Nation Entertainment.
Okay.
Not the other way around, yeah. So, anyway, so my point of contention with this was the range of the payout really just pissed me off. The fact that they turned it into a gun control. I mean, they really wanted to push the fact that, that guns needed to be the focal point, when all these months we've heard that the issue is the security, the accessibility in the hotels, the lack of protection in these soft targets, all of those things that we've heard from these lawyers. And I really found it very interesting that we have yet to hear anything about, any kind of tribute or any kind of anything for Catherine Lombardo, who went out there as a spokesperson for this Robinson and Calcagni law firm for months, as they worked behind the scenes, and not one person has said a word.
She wasn't even mentioned in the Eaglet thing, right? I didn't hear it.
No. Well, and it was what is it, Mark Robinson, or his son. They were actually on the phone, and then Boyle was the last name for the other attorney, David Boyle. And she was actually working under the umbrella of the Napoleon law firm, and Napoleon law firm was working in conjunction with Robinson and Calcagni. There are more partners there. Shapiro is one of them. I can't remember all the names, but they never mention her at all. They never mentioned her. And I think that's really very interesting. They don't say anything about her passing. They don't, talk about the work that she put in on all this. There was just absolutely nothing about her.
Hell, it took forever to find out that she had passed.
Well, I just think that that's interesting, I mean, and the Catherine Lombardo was the front person, the face for, I mean, the one going out and speaking to attorneys. And then there was a shift, or speaking on, public platforms and the media and the news, and that there was a bit of a shift around March of 2019 where we started to hear a lot more from Robert Eaglet. Before that, Robert Eaglet was on the lawsuits, that were specifically for the slide fire. As far as, articles being written, interviews he did, he was specifically referring to the slide fire lawsuits before March of 2018. Then all of a sudden, when MGM goes in and puts out this announcement about their, 735 to 800 million payout, now all of a sudden Robert Eaglet's out here speaking out. And he did also do a little bit of an article back in January, I think it was, of 2019, when there was that offer for money in exchange for destroying the weapons, the guns, which don't know where that went, because he had actually protested that initially and then conceded to it, and still there's no document, there's nothing, no traceable information on how that ended up. But according to some information out there, the weapons were still retained with the FBI. So, so there was this shift where you're not hearing as much from Catherine Lombardo. And I want to say that stopped around January, February of 19. Then, you're hearing more from Robert Eaglet. And then, only in this press conference did you actually hear anything. And of course, I don't know about all you guys, but I've made sure to, to check out those local updates on all this information too. I never, ever heard from this Robinson and Calcagni law firm until we reached a settlement. We did a press conference where they're on, on speakerphone, and then this turned into a gun control rally. So, all very interesting.
No, I'm behind the gun control rally. I think it's exactly what this is. Right.
Well, I just find it rather odd that, that there was no mention of Catherine Lombardo whatsoever.
It is odd. It's very odd.
Mm-hmm. And then, the biggest sticking point for me for the settlement was the fact that they'll determine the amount of payout based on a number of claimants. That just, no. And that was simply, to demonstrate that, we're not going to come out here and say that the insurance is going to pay for the whole damn thing, and we'll never know. It won't be public information. There might be a few tidbits, but I doubt it. We won't know.
There's a lot of shit in this we'll never know.
Exactly.
I made a comment in the live stream last night, that we'll never know the whole Paddock situation either. I mean, there are people questioning, is it him? Is it not him? And who the fuck knows? But we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. And we never, we never got. I mean, I don't know how long you want to, I don't know how deep we want to get into some of this, but, just like we'll never see this surveillance footage of him at the range or going to the range. We'll never see the surveillance footage that identifies him at the Ogden. You know, I mean, there was a video that Sleeped Up put out, which I haven't seen it, but you told me about it, about a cop talking about how he had another room on the 7th floor with a
No, no,
damn
no,
strobe
no.
light in it.
Hold on. I went back and rewatched that.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you. It says he had another floor on the 100 wing with another room on the 100 wing with a strobe light in it.
He had another room in the 100 wing with a strobe light in it.
Yes.
So he didn't say what floor.
32.
There was a strobe light in there?
That's what I'm taking from it. I misunderstood it the first time, so I just wanted to clear that up. But
Oh, okay.
if I'm wrong, anybody in the chat tell me, because I watched it twice.
Well, my point was, because I actually did go. I went to go and watch the video. I got interrupted, and I did see some of the comments, and and I see these constant excuses for, oh well, if he had this many rooms at the Ogden, then certainly, it's reasonable to think he had another room on another floor or something like that, and no, it's not. It's not reasonable because it's not in the report. And if he had one, we should know about it. And if he had the Ogden rooms, we should have proof of that. There should be evidence of that. We don't have any. There are some words. There's a paragraph or two that covers it. There are no receipts. There's no footage identifying him there, which to understand they actually had him on foot, on surveillance camera. At the Ogden, right? There was footage identifying him walking up and down with garbage bags or something like that. I can't remember all the details, but I mean, I have really thought long and hard about a lot of these details. There's all this information lately, surfacing again and kind of getting a huge spotlight on it, which I think is interesting about, the attack from the helicopters. And, I'm not going to I'm not for, the bashing of that because I mean, if that's what you believe and that's what you think, okay, but why? Why do you think that? Just because I just find it almost impossible to believe that there could have been, shots from any helicopters with all of those cell phones that we see filming in that venue. And I just I really find that hard to believe that we wouldn't see some sort of uh, you know, coordinating activity on the ground that would match up with with the shots fired from a helicopter. It just makes no sense, that whole thing. Um, but in relation to that, you consider the fact that on dispatch, we hear about hostages at I think it was Sundance. There were event numbers that they went in the additional documents that were released in March. That there was some a follow up report, investigation report that that talked about hostages or something about a hostage situation at an address that seems to line up with Sundance helicopters. And fact of the matter is, I truly think that there is this information, these tidbits of things that that indicate that there were other people involved. I mean, that there were, other shots fired, that there were hostages at the helicopter, with the helicopter, that there were all these rooms um, rented at the Ogden. That to me, I feel like there is, there is additional information included out there that could have led to uncovering, possible terrorism, or terrorist activity in the investigation that, was that ensued. That's what it's the only reasonable explanation I can come up with for all of this, all of the, if you take into consideration all of what we're seeing and what's occurring, and it's impossible for me to believe that no one could have identified or caught on camera, cell phone, whatever, other um other shots fired somewhere else, other people injured, other, you know, any of this would not have been, recorded. And it makes no sense to me. And what I see in the venue and what I see happening on the backside of the venue and around Reno and Haven, and the activity, to me, does not display what we are being told in this narrative. Nowhere close. So, I do feel that, some of this information was included, in the releases of the documents. Maybe some of it was there because it was already there, and they didn't take it out, but, it does make me go down the path in my mind of thinking that, this, could this have led to possible terrorism? When was the FBI report released? The 3-page, 2.5-page document that we got. When was that?
That was what, 4 months ago?
No,
4 or 5 months ago?
I'd like to know for sure. No, the FBI report wasn't released until January of 19, wasn't it? Wasn't it January?
I thought it was more like March, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't hear a stupid noise, DL. Or DDS. I'm gonna look.
Truth Seeker's saying January.
Yeah, January. What day? January 30th? January 29th. Somewhere around there. January 29th? No. Yeah, it was around January 29th, wasn't it? Around January 29th. Well, when was it put out there that when was it put out on the Department of Justice website that, that the Safety Act information was under review? Well, I know this. It was during the government shutdown. It was around the second week of January. Again, with the timelines. Why was it delayed? Why was that report delayed when everything in that report indicates that everything was already buttoned up, several months beforehand? And that was supposed to be released on the anniversary date, and it was delayed until January 29th. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Tell me.
Absolutely everything about this is related to that Safety Act bullshit. Absolutely everything about it.
Guys,
We must be on a serious delay because I said January 29th already, didn't I?
We're not on delay. Guys, it's just a technical difficulty on our side. We'll do our damnedest to fix it. We just don't know where it's coming from. Just sorry, it's something we have to deal with at this moment. It's not, nobody's hacking us. Nobody's doing anything.
I don't know. I haven't moved.
It is what it is at this point. We'll just keep rolling. There's no way to stop it, so there's no use in talking about it.
Can you hear it?
Oh, I hear it very loud and clear.
Right now, the whole time you can hear it.
No. It comes and goes.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is interference because I'm talking about some shit that people don't want me to talk about. I'm sure of that. Because this information is important. All you need to do is pay attention to the timelines.
Yes. I mean, I hear this from you every day, but you know, the timelines is. If anything you talk to me about sticks in my head, it's the timelines. Keep following the timelines.
Yeah, they don't lie. So it's important that, we received a 2.5-page FBI report at the end of January when we had the Safety Act, called out on a government website, the safetyact.gov. We had a posting on there and they claim it was due to litigation that the Safety Act was under review. And that is never the case. That is never the case that the Department of the DHS director would be reviewing this because of litigation. Not to mention that litigation was announced to the public on July 23rd of 2018, but it was actually filed for in at the end of October or November of 2017 by MGM, which you all never heard about, of course, until July of 2018. Why? What was the delay for? What's the reason? Then they claim that Safety Act, and then, so we have litigation out there in July of 18, allegedly, which was actually filed for in 17. But then it takes them all the way to January of 19 during the government shutdown, no less. During the government shutdown, that is then posted on their website that's under review. And it's still out there today. But you also had on their smart index or whatever it's called, because I can't even remember my own damn videos. It's been so long, but you had on their terrorism index that determines, researches and determines terrorist events, terrorist attacks. And that was posted as a terrorist attack on August 1st of 2018, and the final report for the FIT came out on August 3rd of 2018. Just all those coincidences, huh? Now, I just will tell you, I don't give a shit about Mike Turber and his fucking message to Paladin. I mean, are you guys listening here? Or am I just wasting my time?
All right. From here on out, if anybody brings anything fucking Mike Turber says over here, mods, kick him the fuck out. Don't kick Foe out. I didn't tell him beforehand, but that's enough. Stop letting that guy fucking disrupt us. Please, and thank you. there's people that want you to continue. So,
Well, I'd like some feedback from the chat. Did you know there was some chatter right before the anniversary or on the anniversary or something about the 3 women in the room and how that was a mistake? You guys all hear that? That was a mistake. Initially, we heard that they were assigned to 134, and they just weren't taken off the reservation when 134 became available. So then Paddock got the room, and he was able to keep 134, and they just never got removed from the reservation. Anybody remember that? Remember that? Anyone? Or the fact that, that the names were just added and they were never removed from a previous reservation? You guys remember that? Do you remember the names? Does everybody remember the names? Now, this was actually talked about a couple weeks ago by a few different people, if I remember correctly. Right, Truth Bomb?
yes. Laura, Katie, and Joanne.
Yeah, Laura, Katie, and Joanne. Now, we can talk about the world of coincidences, if you like.
Sure. There's a fucking lot of them in this, but go ahead, continue.
Well, it just so happens that I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who got the background for Stephen Paddock. There are a couple different ones floating around. There was one that came out much later. I want to say, I don't know, sometime in late or 2018, but there was one that was out early on, and it's over 400 pages long. There's a lot of good information on this report. I happen to have it. But there is a name that was associated with Mr. Paddock that he had a long history with. And her name was Connie McCain. I don't know if anybody's heard that name. While I'm talking, I'm looking up an article, so give me a second here. But Connie McCain was somebody that Paddock knew in California, and I want to say, based on memory, give me a second here, that she knew him from California, and they moved to Henderson together. Okay, and she still lives there. She lives in Henderson. I'm not going to give the address. A lot of people already have it, but they moved to Henderson together, and he has a history at her address. She also has a history at his address, many addresses, as a matter of fact. The ones in Mesquite, there were ones in California, Big Bear. There was, they had the addresses in Henderson. They had in San Francisco. I mean, we're talking way back, okay? They have associated addresses for a long time. Now, there was one article that was written and had Connie in it. One. Only one that I ever found. And Connie, at the time of the article, was 69. This was 2 years ago. She said she met the gunman during her time in California before the pair moved to Henderson together. But in recent years, the duo have drifted apart, with the 69-year-old telling Daily Mail that she hasn't seen him for nearly a decade. According to the report, the background report, that's not true. She said, I did know him well. I met him years ago, but I haven't seen him for nearly 10 years. We met in California. I'm from California originally as well. Well, the reason why I bring Connie up is because Connie goes by a few different names. And one of those nicknames or names that she uses is Katie. She has emails that are Katie. She has a name, Katie McCain. She also has Connie McCann. I mean, there are several different names. I'm winging this right now. I don't have this material in front of me. But she also has several different phone numbers that are associated with Paddock. But they're also associated there's two, as a matter of fact, that are associated with a woman named Laura. And Laura's an interesting person because Laura is also the dean of the university at UMC, or the dean of UMC at the University Hospital, University of Nevada. And Laura has a husband named Henry who goes by Rick. Okay. And Rick owns a company called IED Consulting. And Rick's company, IED Consulting, has contracted with the LVMPD for years. And the amount of somewhere between $7,500 to $8,000 a month for development, for employee development, for consulting with employees for growth, potential growth, all this shit. All right. $7,500 to $8,000 a month. Now that is a freaking huge coincidence, right? Connie, whose nickname is Katie, has a phone number that she shares with Laura, whose husband, who's the dean at UMC, whose husband owns a consulting company that contracts with the LVMPD. But this gets better. Do you know what Laura's aliases are on her information? Joanne Smith, as a matter of fact. And I'm not lying. I have this information. It's true. I have it all documented. It's all true. Joanne Smith. Katie, Laura, Joanne. Kicker, Rick and Laura's son works for MGM. He is a media coordinator, communications coordinator. I can't remember his title. Totally winging this. I didn't plan on talking about this right now. But he works for MGM. He's actually been in some videos that Jim Murin has been in. You can see him in the background. How about that? Now, is that a coincidence or what? Isn't that crazy?
I didn't expect that. You didn't even warn me.
I'm just tired of this. I'm tired of this bullshit. I'm tired of this bullshit.
You did not warn me for that one, and I have known that, but I did not see you coming out with that today.
Well, I told somebody earlier today, I have been doing a lot of in-depth studying on our history as of late. A lot of really, absorbing our history of this country. and what it really should mean to everyone. I've really, really wanted to, just immerse myself in what our history should mean to us today. And I have been reminded in stark detail, I mean, in just smacking me in the face of how ashamed we should all be as Americans, because we have sacrificed our freedoms that we were given the power to protect from the suffering of our founding fathers, of our forefathers. I mean, we should all be damn ashamed of how we take advantage of what we've been given. And it's not our freedom. I mean, our freedom we were born with, our life, our liberty, we were born with. But we were given an opportunity to secure the power to determine how our freedoms would be exercised. And we have just fucked it off entirely. I mean, it's just disgusting how, Americans have completely thrown away, that gift. And I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this manipulation. I'm so sick of it. I can't even begin to tell you. And I don't want to be in the line of fire for anyone for exercising my freedoms and for wanting to retain the power I was given. But damn it, if that's my role, if that's where I've wound up, I'm not going to let that sacrifice that was made, years and years ago be for nothing. And I'm not going to allow my kids, to have to, be burdened even more than we are right now because I did nothing. I said nothing. I kept my head in the sand. I won't do that.
Well, bravo. I mean, I agree with everything you just said. And I'm so glad you finally put that information out. And don't worry, guys. That spider webs, all these spider webs she has, goes way beyond all this. So, yeah, I still don't know what to say next time you're going to drop an actual bomb.
Well, I hope people are really listening to what I said. And it's not a coincidence. It's not nothing. And if you think that, that these hospitals aren't so entrenched in this bullshit, these mass casualty incident drills and, and all of the things that we're seeing, and, and you just can't wrap your mind around the fact that people would participate in this, you are dead wrong. You are dead wrong. Hospitals are leading the charge on most of this. The medical field is leading the charge on a lot of this. So the private sector medical field even. But university hospitals are deep, deep, deep into these things. And they're not doing it. I just want to clarify here, from the perspective of people who are, participating in this, they are not doing it for, for manipulating reasons, for reasons of deceit or, or evil. They are doing it because they feel like it's their civic duty to do so. They have been, convinced that that is the case. The majority of these people who are participating in these events, that is truly what they think. They think they are doing the right thing to protect Americans. They've been brainwashed, really. I mean, is really the only way I can describe it. But that is truly what they believe. It's, there's a driving force behind it that, that has they are doing it for nefarious reasons. Absolutely. And it's all about control. taking your power that was secured by things like the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. You had those freedoms. Those documents secure your right to exercise those freedoms. And we have just given those away. And not only that, but I mean, damn, I don't know who all has kids out there in the chat right now, or even for yourself, but we're talking years and years and years back. Our history, as it has been taught in schools, has been manipulated, incredibly manipulated. I mean, it's not worth two pennies to rub together now. But even, years back in school, our history has been manipulated for so long that, truly, I do not think that people have the ability to understand how those documents evolved, what actually took place in order to secure those freedoms for Americans. And it's really, really important, I think, for everyone to really research that and understand what those documents really mean, and teach it to your kids, for Pete's sake.
Do you remember? I was looking up something for what's it called? Maybe there's an app on your phone that you can put all your information.
I don't. What do you mean, all your information?
Through the hospital systems?
Oh, what we were talking about when you sign away your rights for your children?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's called something, it's different. It's called something different in every state, I think. But it's basically an electronic records agreement, and it's written in HIPAA. It's written in there too specifically, and I gave you that information if you recall. It's written in there to specifically give your rights as a parent away at a certain age for your child.
I think the age of 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's dependent upon the state that you live in. For instance, here it's 14. For you, I think it was 12. It's different in every state, but it is a federal guideline that they slip this in under that HIPAA, where once you agree to sign your children up for electronic records, electronic health records. So if you are, you go to the doctor and you fill in, you get your little tablet. They give you a tablet now, You get your tablet and you, no, it's not done at birth. This is when you are agreeing to enroll in electronic records online. When you do that, you are agreeing to, because you're enrolling your child, and you are agreeing through this electronic records disclosure that you will no longer have access to your child's records at a certain age. And whatever that age is dependent upon the state that you live in. And I think, do you still have that? I probably still have that saved somewhere, but I sent you that, I think, because of a coworker you had or something, if I remember correctly.
Correct. I know I don't have it on hand, but we can get it for another show.
Yeah. So there is something specifically in the electronic records disclosure. I think I sent it to you where, where this was specifically written out, where this electronic records would separate you as the parent from access to your child's records. It was specifically written out that way. And that was, for them to be, separation of family. That puts some more of that division there because your child is, independent at age 11, 12. It's disgusting.
It's insane.
It's all tied together, though. I mean, it's all tied together.
All right. Well, I think we want to keep this around 2 hours tonight, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we really haven't interacted much with the chat, but that's up to you.
We can do that. Anyone got any questions for anything they heard? Because I didn't expect that to come out tonight, but it did.
Jay Gunderson, I don't think that was something that they voted on. This is all. That's how they got away with it, is because it's tied to your electronic records disclosure. So basically, they sidestepped any kind of legislation on that. It's an electronics records disclosures. I mean, because, it's easier, right? It's easier for everyone to just access their records online or sign up their kids for it or whatever. But it is, it's in the electronic records. Do you have, do you have your kids on electronic records, Angela?
I want to say here it's called MyChart.
I don't remember the name of it. It's called something different here, myhealth.org or something like that. But it's specifically to the electronic records. So if you sign your child up, and that would be amazing if California was 18. Legally, yes, everybody. I mean, anyone should have access to their children's records until they're 18. But if you sign up for the electronic records, you sign away those rights. It's in all of the electronic records information that I've researched. So I don't use electronic records. I don't use it for myself or my kids.
She wants to know if you figured out who voted for that to go through.
Yeah, it wasn't something you had to vote for because it's not legislation like, actually something that you would vote for. It's with each individual health what's the word I'm looking for here? Organization, I guess. So, but it is dependent upon your state. Your state has a law based on these electronic records when your children, because there are laws that can be associated with certain types of health treatment that is sought out by children. Usually that's in regards to like birth control or, whatever. So it's based on each state. So.
Thank you, Ever, for sending that to me. We'll save this for a different show. You don't have to, Jay Gunderson, you don't have to sign up for it at all. Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I never signed up for it, but there is the way they do it. I'm trying to remember what the situation was with your, because I never did it. I never signed up for the electronic, but your coworker had signed her kids up for electronic records. And then when she turned a certain age, like the access to that for the parent was cut off, right?
Correct.
Wasn't that? Yeah, that was how it was. I mean, I can't remember the details. I didn't expect to talk about this tonight, but as far as I see Miss Dawn saying the parent would be the one with the password. No, they set up, like, they cut it off. and then the child is the one who has to they have to give you permission to have access to the records like the child does. I don't remember the details, honestly, but we can bring that stuff up on another show. But it's true. I mean, you can research this. It's out there. So anyway, I didn't expect us to talk about medical records. I was really talking about questions on the show or the stuff we've already talked about.
There's a lot of benefit to them. It's a separation, in my opinion. It's a separation from kids and parents, and they do that shit in schools. They're doing it in the health system.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of it surrounds, that type of healthcare, like the birth control and the pregnancy care and all that. It has a lot to do with basically encouraging a child to be able to make those, determine those types of things or make those decisions on their own at a very young age in some states. And in your state, I think it was 12. In here, in my state, I want to say it was 14.
Yeah, it was 12 or 14.
Yeah, but it's honestly, there is a lot of manipulation in just about every single aspect of your life. If you really look at, open your eyes to what's been going on. And that transgender stuff, Nini, that's interesting. I don't know if anybody has researched some of the Johns Hopkins doctor that he wasn't a doctor, as a matter of fact. You could if you research even on YouTube the Johns Hopkins transgender, just put that in and you'll see a speaker who is a doctor, and that there's a lot of coverage on what this person was doing as far as experiments and manipulation and these clinical trials that they were experimenting on kids with. It's sick. It is sick and tragic. But I don't even want to get into that. Yeah, that's really a hard one for me to talk about because I just, really a sick, twisted world we live in. Yes, Jay Gunderson, you can research that now. There's an individual that I can't remember his name. He used to work at Johns Hopkins, and he's spoken out about these clinical trials that he knows were occurring. And then he also talks about the I can't remember the association that was formed and how it was formed for these transgender rights and pursuing this, and it's an association that was formed not the way medical associations are formed, and then they're supposed to receive this input from all these different types of doctors. I mean, it's really kind of easily found, but I'll send you an email with that information. It's unreal, though, what you will hear. It's really sad. And there's documents out there to prove a lot of this. There are documents out there that you can research now that prove that it's true. And we're talking babies. babies that had medical accidents, like during circumcisions and that where they tried to change these children into girls. Oh God, it's really sad and sick, but they were experiments. They were lab experiments is what they were. And it was all under this certain he wasn't even a doctor. I can't remember what he had in what his background was, but he was not an MD. He was not a doctor. And I mean, the video in particular that I'm talking about is where this guy, travels on and speaks at conventions and that, and he's at a conference and, speaking about this particular situation and what he witnessed, because, he personally witnessed how they started to exercise these trials at this hospital, and the outcome was just tragic. Really sad. But unfortunately, I do think that that's part of it, with the separation of parent and child at such an early stage.
Yes, that's my opinion on it. Well, I don't want to go too much deeper into that, but I do want to play this video, and I do have permission to play this video. So I want others to watch that maybe haven't watched it or maybe not subbed. If you're not subbed to Sleeped Up, go sub to him. And here we go.
This is where Officer Clarkson was hit, right?
Yeah,
right here somewhere?
Yeah.
Man, were you working that night too? Scary shit.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was.
I noticed a lot of officers, it was like the very second night, first night.
You see, there was a lot of new guys. We have been out here a couple years already. But then once we responded, started right there. When we showed up, we were right behind that Luxor steeple thing.
Right.
Was firing because that's the only place to take cover.
Right.
We slowly made our way all the way to Mandalay Bay.
Oh, I think I've seen that body cam where you guys are.
Yeah, going like through the bushes.
You go through
Luxor,
here, and then I go up the House of Blues, the ramp.
Yep.
That was about the time someone came through the radio and said it's coming from halfway up.
Yep.
Officer Ricks, I think it was on the radio, yeah.
I can't believe it was 2 years ago.
I know.
It seems like a couple months ago.
Right. Yeah, I remember watching the body cam in Clarkson and the Hispanic lady, the officer, her and a few were like hunkered down, and you could just hear the bullets hitting like the car. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Right. And I bet that 10 minutes felt like forever. Like. Yeah, I think I remember seeing you in a body cam. You guys are coming from there, and there's like 2 drunk guys or something, like just.
Slowly started running through the bushes all the way up. Once we did hear him stop firing, then we started going
Right.
until he started again. We didn't know if he was still going or not, but he stopped for a brief second. We're like, all right, let's go.
Right. Did you guys see that strobe light that was in the window?
Yeah.
Did you guys think that's what it was?
Oh yeah. He had the strong light in one of his rooms, and he was shooting out the other one. That way,
Right.
SWAT did breach, and he'd be confused.
Right. That was his room?
Yeah.
Wow, really? It was like floor 7 or something, or 8?
It was like 32.
Well, yeah, that. But that strobe was like way down here.
Okay. They said there was strong light set up in his room too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
To diversion or?
Yeah, something.
Wow. I remember seeing the first 2 officers were going across there, and they're looking up, and you could still hear it. They're right there underneath it. Dude, what kind of training can prepare you for that?
try to get up to where it is and take out the threat
Right.
as fast as you can. And when you go down, then you signed up for it.
What do you think about Varson and Hendricks? That whole thing about.
See, I know Varson.
That was like her second night.
Second day. And I mean, if I was in his shoes, I don't know what I would do. I'd like to say I would try to go in and sacrifice myself, but I can't unless I'm in that situation. I can't say it.
Right.
But I think the thing that fucked him over was in his report. He stated that he hesitated.
Right.
So that's what they don't want that.
Yeah, and in the body cam, those security guys were trying to go, and he's like, hold on. And,
I'd like to say I'd run up to the door and just start throwing bullets.
Right, that's what you think, yeah. You know, he's got a family and stuff, and I'm sure he's thinking of that. And you see him go up the stairwell, and he stops and he's praying.
He doesn't even really have backup. He's got someone with 2 years or 2 days on.
Yeah, and then some security guards he's never met.
Yeah, if I was with her, I'd be like, hey, just go back downstairs. I'm definitely in that situation.
Right.
Going, but I don't know, man. If you see me on the news or something, then you can know if I actually did something or not. I'd like to say I would.
Right.
It sucks for you.
Yeah, and because you could hear that gunfire coming, man. It's like it's sure it's like rattling the wall. It's do.
Yeah.
That's some scary shit up there. And the sheriff said, you take a knife to a gun battle. He's got his, a sidearm, and then they're up there with, and they think it's machine guns. Like belt fed, because he's getting stuff over his earpiece saying it's belt feds, and Man, well, I appreciate everything you did that night. So do you know what else is going on tonight, or?
I don't know. I know they just had that ramp that I think was totally in line, and then they're supposed to walk all the way around. I don't know if they're doing something at the end.
Yeah, I'm not.
All right, the rest of it's just chatter about what's going on in Vegas. Move this back over here.
Sure you did.
All right. I'm sorry if you guys couldn't hear that very well, or if you'd like to listen to it closer. If so, it's over on Fleet Depth's channel. I'll put a link in the description. And again, if you're not subbed to him, go sub to him. I'm sure most of you are. All right. Anybody else got any more questions? You still with me over there, co-host?
Mm-hmm.
Got any? Either the cop is fucking stupid. Because has anybody here heard of a strobe light N32, 135 or 134? Is that anywhere? I kind of take it as he's just ignorant, but
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why he would say it.
I don't know. He might not even have been there that night. Who knows?
Yeah, it's just a weird conversation. I couldn't really hear it, so I'm going to go listen to the video. Or watch it, actually, because I never actually... Oh, excuse me. Never actually got to watch it, but... Yeah, fourth floor is where all the, commotion was happening around 1 a.m, allegedly. And, where we had a shooter at 1 o'clock in the morning. Which is also where the strobe light was. Yes, Joe did call it an act of terrorism, or considered it as an act of terrorism. Add it to your timeline, people. He was dropping that little terrorism aspect. Wasn't ruling it out. They sure wanted it to be terrorism, didn't they? Hell, they had an attack on the mall a couple weeks later, and I don't think anybody was killed there, and they called that an act of terrorism. One shooter. And that was an act of terrorism. Anybody remember that?
All right.
Anyway.
Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, well, I hope that if anybody got anything out of this, the most important thing I talked about tonight was researching your history. Really. Everybody needs to have a true understanding of why they need to care about exercising their rights. Because that's really the most important thing that there is on the table to be sacrificed for every single person listening, not listening, mocking this live, calling us nutters, whatever. I mean, it is the most important thing that some people are willing to sacrifice. I don't happen to be one of them, but hopefully there are people out there that are listening to this chat right now who are actually going to start realizing what your part is as an American. You have a responsibility to protect those freedoms. You have a responsibility to do that. Start doing it.
The masses are not going to do it. The people.
Yeah, well, it's your responsibility to freaking scream it from the rooftops. It's just as much yours as it is mine.
Right. Absolutely true. All right, well, I think I'm going to close this down. We're creeping up on, we are over 2.5 hours, so. Hold on, we got one more question. All right, shoot, April, go ahead.
It was actually 10:08, April. that said that. I mean, I don't know. The timeline that I'm familiar with is 10:08, and it's in the FIT report, and it was due to CAD events, not CC cameras at the concert.
All right, I think I was on mute, so I'll tell Vicky again. No, Vicky, I don't think that I will be going live tomorrow unless something pops off, which you never know in this crazy world we live in. I am actually working on a different kind of show myself. Don't worry, the Tuesdays and Thursdays are not going anywhere. Tuesdays and Thursdays will always be related to Vegas. If Debbie W is still listening, I will explain that in an upcoming video about Seattle. So that dumbass over there, listen, you might want to head to Seattle and head quick. But I will get to that, Debbie W, if you're still listening or you listen to this tomorrow or whatever.
Okay, wait. April, I think so you are referring to the timeline that was released in the press conference by Lombardo, right? He did release a timeline at the press conference. I want to say it was on the 3rd, I think. The only footage that we've ever seen is the concert is the roof cam footage, and then the corner footage right there at Mandalay Bay Road and Las Vegas Boulevard that would even come close to identifying shots fired at 10:05. You can see a lot of stuff happening in that CC. Oh, that is something I wanted to talk about. There was that CCTV footage, that roof cam footage that was played on LBSA and Turd Breath's channel. That anyone saw the refugee bus dropping off the refugees? Anybody see that? The only footage that we've seen is that roof cam in the corner footage for the concert, April, which, I mean, you can technically see you can see people running before shots were fired. So whatever that tells you. Discerning light, you saw the refugees getting off the bus? No.
How many cans
Maybe
of worms,
we'll try that.
How many cans of worms you gonna open up today?
We're not playing the footage, but it's out there. You can see the bus like backing in. It's just so interesting. The bus, this huge bus, which looks exactly like the second bus that Brady Cook ran by went in his body cam, or the body cam that was with the cop that, when he got shot. Because they passed the white bus, right? They passed the white bus as they're running to wherever they're running to a car that's a million miles down the road to rush him off. And then they pass another bus. There are two buses sitting there running. They're both running. They're in the line of fire. And they're both parked right there on the side of the street. And they run past the second bus, and that bus I mean, it looks exactly like the bus that pulls into this parking lot, pulls in, pulls forward, backs up, pulls forward, backs up into next to a semi truck, and then all of a sudden all these people come piling off the bus and walk over to a parking lot. I don't know if they were parked, or they were all parked over there. I don't know. It's interesting. I just call it the refugee bus because of the refugees that were picked up in the cell phone parking lot over at the airport. You think, Thumper?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, I'm getting off of here. So, anything else you got for them?
No, I've talked enough.
You gonna hold some things for maybe the next show?
Yeah, I want to talk about our history the next show. I want details from the audience.
All right.
From the commenters.
Oh shit, we got homework. All right, well, thank you for coming on and dropping your bombs.
Anytime.
Thanks the mods for keeping it cool.
Hey, I do want to say thank you to Joe Roscoe for keeping it real. For keeping your shit in check, for guarding your house, for serving our country, and for showing everyone what a piece of shit Mike Turber is.
I fucking second that. And the way that I'm going, I usually end every show with on to the next, but I'm not going to tonight. I'm going to end it with Viva Las Vegas, God bless, and Joe, we got your back. You guys have a great night. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again.
Veterans living on the streets. So why the hell do we need refugees? They say come on in, you can bring your culture. Don't pledge allegiance to our flag, just be a vulture. And don't speak our language, just hold your hand out. Man, I'm starting to think this whole thing was planned out. I call BS on that. I think our country's been had, and old Ted Nugent can't do it alone. Been trying to tell you now, it might be too late. Them politicians run the schools, vote them in and bend the rules. If you don't agree, they tell you too bad. Well, I call BS on that. Yeah, BS on that. You ain't entitled to a dadgum thing. If you don't work, then you just don't eat. Cause it's better to be burning hot or freezing ass cold than to ever be caught dead in the middle of the road. And I call BS on that. I think our country's been had, and Charlie Daniels can't do it alone. Been trying to tell you now, it might be too late. Them politicians run the schools, vote them in and bend the rules. If you don't agree, they tell you too bad. Well, I call BS on that. Yeah, BS on that. Come on. Calling good evil, calling evil good. Hell, they're calling it progress in your neighborhood. But just hold fast, old USA, 'cause I've had nightmares of it fading away. And I call BS on that, it's way past time to get mad. And old Bo Cephas can't do it alone. Been trying to tell you now, it might be too late. Them politicians run the schools, put them in and bend the rules. If you don't agree, they tell you too bad. I call BS on that. Yeah, BS on that. Wake up, America.